Welcome Falguni and Adwaita to India Inc. 2.0. Thanks for agreeing to do this interview. Falguni, I'll begin with you. You had a career in banking that I think everyone who goes to any school dreams of, any banker dreams of, and you gave up that career to become an entrepreneur. What inspired you?
As an investment banker, I met a lot of promoters and I did their IPOs. I mean, we did a lot of IPOs for big companies. And every time I met them and I heard them tell their stories, like say Ronnie Screwvallah used to say that he wants to build a studio like Disney, and everybody thought it's just not going to be possible. Or I saw how Adani wanted to build a big port in a remote corner of the country, and everybody thought it's not going to be possible. And I saw these businesses being built and succeed, and I just felt that that early stage value creation and belief in what you believe in will work, and just making it happen was a great challenge, and I wanted to embrace that. So I
So
wanted
how
to
long
be
did
an
you toy
entrepreneur.
with the idea that I'm going to give up
About
investment
2-3
banking?
years, it was very tough to give up a successful investment banking career at a growth company like Kotak.
Yeah.
And it took me almost 3 years from the time I wanted to do it to be able to tell Uday that I'm going to leave.
Did he let you go easily?
He was always wanting. For about 3 months he kept trying that, okay, change your mind, and but I said, the most difficult part was to tell you, if I now change my mind, I'll never have courage to do it again. So I just decided to go ahead and execute.
And Adwaita, were you involved with the entire, setting up of NYKAA right from the start? How did your journey start?
Yeah, so, well, first of all, we've always been very close. So I always encouraged her to kind of take this leap because I always felt that she had that entrepreneurial drive in her. I was graduating my undergrad right around when she was starting, and I worked abroad for a year and then came back and joined her about a year in.
But did you guys together come up with the idea for NYKAA?
We definitely debated it, but she came up with the concept, the name, and the idea. I think there were a few different ideas she was toying with, but I think beauty is what emerged.
Why beauty?
I felt that I want, as a professional turned entrepreneur who didn't have deep pockets, I wanted to be in a sunrise industry and make a mark for myself before others come in. And I felt that beauty industry, which is so big in the world, like especially US and Korea and Asian countries like Japan, was as a nascent stage in India. From whatever numbers I saw the turnover of big companies like Lakme, big brands like Lakme or L'Oreal, and I realized that these were early days. And I wanted to make a space for myself. I was also inspired by Sephora, my visits to Sephora in the US. And the big concept there was that beauty, according to me, will move from being single brand retailing to a multi brand retail under one roof. Single brands always push too many of their products, whereas in a multi brand environment, customer feels safe that they're choosing from what best is out there, rather than being it's not a push approach, it's more of a pull, demand pull approach. So I believed in multi brand retail. I believed in a beauty advisor who advises from a customer perspective, and I also wanted to do, I believed in e-commerce, so I wanted to do all that online. So I think somehow it all just fell into place.
Adwaita, what I found really fascinating, and I'm going to take a cue from what your mom just said, because she talked about e-commerce. But you are now also spearheading the offline part of the business, having physical brick and mortar retail stores,
Yeah.
whereas most of your peers just want to have an app or do everything with e-commerce. But you seem to be different on that front.
Well, I do love the e-commerce business, but she sort of suggested that I look after this bit for now. So I think our vision is to be synonymous with beauty, and to really get to that point, we have to be both online and offline. And so we spent the last 4 years really working on the online piece, but I think now is the time to focus on offline. And so I think offline is important because we do believe that 80 to 85% of this market is still offline. So there's a huge chunk that we need to capture in that sense. And then also as a country, if we're trying to build the beauty category, then offline is probably the better place to be converting people.
So are you finding that since you opened the stores, your business has improved a lot? Like, what do the numbers suggest?
So we have 5 stores currently, so it's still a small part of our business, but we will be at 15 stores by the end of March 2018. And based on how these stores perform, we do have the ambition to take that to about 30, 40 stores at the end of 2019. So we'll see, as the number of stores scale, we definitely see it becoming a more substantial part of the business.
But if I can jump in here, what we find is that we did some survey which told us that almost 70% of our customers want us to be omni-channel. They want to once in a while come into the store, experience products more deeply. Like many many products we'll have more than 80 colors, and while there are lots of ratings and reviews to be able to choose online, but they once in a while want to come into the store, experience the products, and then they also like the convenience of e-commerce. In today's day and world, convenience of e-commerce is big. So our omni-channel strategy will offer both.
So are you guys, and whichever one of you want to come in on this, looking now also at the smaller cities and not necessarily the metros?
The next 10 stores are definitely focused on Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, but we are also launching stores in, we're doing Amritsar, we did Noida, we're looking at places in Lucknow, Jaipur. So we are also venturing, a little bit further, but we're definitely going to try to keep it more of a metro strategy to begin with.
And I believe you've got a new format for your stores.
Yeah, so we have a new format, and so I think this is where sort of a millennial approach can be useful to retail as we know it. And so this new format is called On Trend, and what we're doing here is a very innovative form of merchandising where we're just showing the top sellers by category and trends. So it's sort of a brand agnostic play, and so it's very different from beauty retail as we know it today. That is going to be completely data driven. So whatever's selling best online, we'll be taking to stores. Whatever's selling best in that location as per online data, we'll be taking to the store. And then we're overlaying that with a lot of technology. So anything in the store, you can kind of scan and read the reviews online, and we'll be pulling together the online offline piece a bit more.
So this data you'll be collecting will obviously depend on, when you say bestsellers, that means bestsellers for Nykaa, right?
Nykaa, online on our site.
And I'm guessing from social media posts as well, like, if somebody says, I like this
Yes,
lipstick,
of course,
or so that's your data as well.
Yes, yeah.
So you'll have to keep revolving as well, right?
Yes, every quarter we will put new products. So we're starting with a refresh every 3 months, but as we get better at handling our refreshes, we may do every month also.
Okay. And do you guys have clear-cut roles between the two of you?
Yes.
Right now we do. Earlier on when we were both working on the e-commerce business, and especially in the early days, we kind of did a lot of overlapping roles. But today, as of now, I'm very much on the offline piece.
I think going a little bit into our history of our early days is interesting. So, for example, I think Adwaita, I have to admit, was instrumental in motivating me to consider this business. I think she shared a poem with me, which I've talked about very often. It's a poem called Ithaka, which is actually, which says that it's not about the destination, but about the journey. Because the big thing for me was always that if I embark on this journey of building Nykaa, how far it can go, and will I give up what I have to do this? And I think the poem says that it's not about the destination. The destination can be New York, or it can be a port in Africa, but the journey will be interesting. And I think I took it with that perspective. But so initially I did the easy work, which was the branding, getting the website ready and all that, while she was working at Bain in New York. And then I think we started getting about 60 orders a month. It was around Ganpati time in 2013.
And I can vouch for it. It's quite crazy.
It's quite crazy because it's rains and Ganpati and everything all thrown in together. And just around that time, we started scaling up, and with 60 orders, we collapsed. And our chief operating officer could not handle all the stress of dispatching 60 orders. Today, we do 20,000 orders, and we are managing it well, but those days. And I think she, around that time, decided to come back. So I called her my just-in-time resource, who came and really helped it. So those were the days when we would have to work till 3 a.m. dispatching our packages, and we had to learn everything. Like, it's like you were just thrown into the fire and you have to learn everything. And that's how we learned e-commerce.
So she came from Bain. Was she a consultant?
No, she came as a good, hardworking, I don't know what's the word for it, but like hardworking resource who was doing everything from answering customer query and crying at the end of it to helping me manage the warehouse and everything. Yeah.
And you didn't mind giving up your career to join your mom?
No. And also I think once I took the leap and I'm here now with her, I think there's something just so satisfying about building something from scratch and feeling so much for it, which I really like, and I don't think I would go back to anything else now.
And on that note, ladies, I'm going to take a short commercial break. We'll be back in less than 2 minutes. You're watching India Inc. 2.0. Welcome back. You're watching India Inc. 2.0. I'm Nayar Rai. Today we're in conversation with Falguni Nayar and her daughter Adwaita Nayar. They've, of course, founded Nykaa. Ladies, now let's talk a little bit about your journey at Nykaa and how you are building Nykaa. I'll begin with you, Falguni. You decided to enter the beauty business. Your research showed that yes, there is opportunities available here. But I'm sure it wasn't easy. You still already had a very established Lakme, Revlon. You already had Sephora that had started making inroads in the country. So, where do you stand right now when I were to look at the beauty business, and what's your ambition?
I think when we started, the only big beauty retailer was Shopper Stop, which was more of a department store format. Even internationally, now there is enough research which says that consumers are moving away from department store format into what is called specialty beauty stores, which is Sephora
Oh,
or
so they're not
Nykaa.
going to, let's say, Macy's or Nordstrom as they were
The
earlier.
international research is showing that customers are not wanting to buy that. And I had seen that every department store all over the world had beauty as the ground floor. So my simple, observation was that if they're giving their most important retail space to this business, it must be good business. And then on top of that, just sometimes you get lucky, and it's a global trend that customers are moving away from department store into specialty stores like Sephora, which were retailing multi-brand retail format. And on top of it, like, we overlaid e-commerce, which is the whole convenience. So in a short span of about 4 years since we launched the business, we've grown to be the largest beauty retailer today in India. We are a very
The largest
significant-
beauty retailer.
Yeah, we're clearly the largest beauty retailer in India, and a multi-brand beauty retailer. Of course, none of the brands can be as big as a multi-brand
Yeah.
retailer. So we are clearly the largest beauty retailer in India, as well as we have a fair amount of growth, that is continuing, because we are reaching far and wide. So I think today Nykaa's turnover is equivalent of more than 200, 300 stores, and I think it continues to grow because we can service all of India, which a physical retail cannot. And overlay it with omni-channel as well as our own private label, it's become a good growth engine.
And Adwaita, you were talking to me about having bestsellers in your stores, which your mom said you'd be trying to refresh every 3 months. Do you want to tell us what are the bestsellers at the moment, or some trends that you're noticing, some interesting trends?
So in terms of trends, we're definitely seeing a huge Korean beauty trend. So I think over the last 3 months, it's just kind of skyrocketed in the skincare category. We're also seeing a lot of demand for natural products. So particularly people are looking for SLS and paraben-free products. So that's another trend. We're seeing a lot of, makeup trends, from the contouring to the non-touring to now the glossy look. So that's always evolving.
Were you always into makeup?
No, we actually both hated makeup. I mean, not that we hated makeup, but we never really had a passion for it. But I can say that over the last 5 years, we've definitely started to enjoy it and love it. And you have to know what you're selling.
So I'm sure part of your role must also be to, every time you travel, to figure out what's selling, what's not selling, what are the new trends?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time when I'm abroad just looking at beauty stores and new brands and walking around experiencing all of it.
So now do you wear more makeup?
Yeah, I definitely wear more, but I'm not yet at the stage that I see many of the Nykaa customers at, where they're buying 10 times a month. So I'm definitely not there, but more of a mediocre user.
What about the Nykaa private label? How is that doing, and is that something you're going to continue to focus on?
So because we were a multi-brand retailer, we thought that, and I also believe that there's a lot of brand proliferation in beauty all over the world. If you go to US, and again, in industry data shows that the large multinationals who accounted for 90% of turnover just 5 years ago, now only account for 30%. And there are lots of individual brands coming up. They're called indie brands. So there are a lot of brands that are owned by celebrities that are coming up. There's a
You don't
whole
want to look
host
at brand endorsements or getting a celebrity on board?
We may consider, but there are a lot of brands that are, they are using digital influence that they have to build a brand. And even retailer brands are doing very well. So Sephora's own brand or Boots' own brand. So taking a cue from all that, we thought Nykaa should have our own private label, and we launched it pretty early. We started with nail colors about 2 years ago, and then we built up the brand. So, but to our surprise, like, consumers embraced our brand very well. They love the product, they love the quality of the product, and we always wanted to give a lot of choice. So our brand tends to have lots of choice. Like, our nail
Is it
colors more
competitively
than
priced?
it's a good quality product at the right price. So I wouldn't say it's the cheapest product in the market. That's not what we wanted to do. We went to high quality suppliers from Europe rather than sourced it from China. So these are great quality products at a very affordable price. And we have a lot of variety. So like, our nail colors have 200 colors. In lipsticks, we'll have 50, 60 colors. So I think that's a big, big draw also for the customers. So we're very excited about what our private label acceptance rate has been, and that's helping us raise our ambition that we will do more. And actually we are embarking on a big journey where we are working with international brands to convince them to come to India and be on Nykaa site, and many of them are agreeing to come. So there will be more excitement as we go forward. We'll bring some very unique brands to India.
Like?
I don't want to say it because then I'll steal the thunder, I think, but you'll see announcements kind of every month.
Oh, every month?
Yeah.
Starting soon?
Yeah, starting soon. I think starting October, we are bringing a very big brand which our consumers have been asking on our timeline. So there's a whole journey to bring many of these exciting international brands. Like even LA Girl is very popular on our website, NYKAA'S is very popular. So these are many of the brands. Smashbox, we have that now. So we're working with all our brand partners to bring a number of brands into the country. And that's a very exciting journey from here.
Okay, on that note, ladies, I'm going to take a short commercial break. When we return, let's talk about the initial challenges that both of you faced. You're watching India Inc. 2.0. We'll be back in less than 2 minutes. Welcome back. You're watching India Inc. 2.0. I'm Nayar Rai. Today I'm in conversation with Falguni and Adwaita Nayar, the founders of NYKAA. Ladies, you know, you started with what, 5 employees, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes.
Today I'm in your office. You're on the same floor as JM Financial. It's a very impressive setup. How many employees do you have now?
We are at 500 now. So in May 2012, I remember very clearly, we started with 5 employees.
And
all of April, I was the only employee. And then May we started.
Were you employee number 2?
No, I think I was 10.
She was advisor.
And I was an advisor.
And now you're saying about 500. You know, I just want to understand, what's your employment outlook going forward? It doesn't, I mean, at NYKAA, jobs is of course very trendy at the moment.
So we really want to build out our offering on the beauty side. So some of the additional initiatives. So we have a large customer service team. We have almost 60, 70 people in customer service, and of course many of them are troubleshooting. Where's my package? It's here, it's blocked, we'll send it. But more than that,
ladies is what you have.
yes, but more than that, what we are doing is that we want to be the advisor, the trusted advisor, and we brought a lot of advice online through our blog. We call it Beauty Book, as well as videos. We have lots of videos. We have a very popular YouTube channel. But now we are providing one-on-one advice to our customers. So whether they write questions on our product pages, or we are going to have a big community offering, as well as on social media or on our blog, wherever they ask us questions, we are providing answers to them, and they are very customized to each customer in terms of what they're asking and what we are giving them answers for.
So like what kind of questions would they ask?
I mean, there are all sorts of questions in terms of, you know, how do I get this look, or how should I dress for this particular event, or I have XYZ skin problem.
So do you have people to, give the correct answers?
Yeah, we have a whole, I would say there are probably 50 people in this organization that are dedicated towards either creating content to educate and guide customers, or to react very actively to these kinds of questions.
Okay, and this is where I would imagine you would also have to compete with like the Vogues and the Cosmopolitans of the world, because they also do all of this stuff, right?
They do it in a certain format, which is mainly a magazine or an advertisement format. I mean, a magazine or a video format. But what we are doing is one-on-one advice, and because we are in the business of retailing, it makes sense for us to do that advice, because it then comes back to we are building our business through that. So I think we will be the largest advice giver on beauty very soon, because of the kind of investment we are making.
And it's free advice?
It's free advice, yes.
And is it going to stay free?
Yes,
Yeah,
it'll stay
absolutely.
free.
I think when we think of what defines NYKAA, education is very much at the core of it.
Okay. So this is something like free advice, and obviously hoping that they'll come back and buy products from you, right? And then it'll help your data building, I would imagine, which will then help the bestseller list, etc. So it all fits in together, is the sense I'm getting.
Yes.
Falguni, your banking skills also must have come in handy. I'm sure you're not burning cash. So you must have done fundraising, etc. So that expertise is paying dividends, obviously.
Yeah, so I used to say early days that, I don't have a business plan. But yes, we are a company very driven by numbers. We have plans, very detailed plans. Whatever we put in our business plan to investors, we actually convert it to our budgets and work towards it and achieve it. So it's a very data-oriented company, very numbers-oriented company, with a very clear plan and vision to being EBITDA positive, and we have been very capital efficient. I think we've raised all of 180 crores to be where we are today. And we have very significant size business in terms of revenues, whether you call it GMV, net revenues, or even the profit pool that we are, the customer acquisition, the customer visits. So on all parameters, we are a very significant size company with very limited capital thrown in till now. And obviously, I've done 3 fundraise totaling up to 180 crores. And yes, we have clear plans for continued high growth and
An IPO?
an IPO, yes, eventually.
When are we going to see
Because
that?
I began with IPO, I must end.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
really end, but that's
Yeah.
a logical culmination. I do believe that companies should have a life of their own, and IPO is a very important event because it makes them independent of the promoter, and then they can have a life of their own.
I want to get your views on this one as well, because a lot of people your age love saying that they are into startups, and now there is a certain fear that is it a bubble. So from I've got her perspective, but now to get your perspective, how have you ensured that NYKAA is nothing like that?
Yeah. So I think I've definitely learned from her in terms of this very tight sort of frugal behavior when it comes to managing a business. I think from day one, the whole organization has been trained to understand that it's not about the top line in isolation. It's very much about all the items underneath that, whether that's margin, your variable, your fixed costs, etc. And there's huge emphasis on making sure that those assumptions are in place, and we're constantly reviewing those numbers. And the belief in the firm is very much that if you can't control that, then we're not going after the top line. So I think I've inherited that and very much believe in it. So early on, when NYKAA was right in the early days, I would always say why can't we grow faster? Let's just invest more money. But she always held us back so that we built a tighter business. And I think today I definitely see the merit in that.
Is it easy to have her as a boss?
No, it's not easy. Yeah.
No.
I think everyone in this office can vouch that she's a very tough boss, and I think it again comes down to really holding us very accountable for all the various things that our business units do.
And I'm sure then maybe she makes you, gives you the ideas of taking more risks, which maybe you wouldn't have earlier. Would you say that's true? Because when she says that, I would get impatient.
Yeah. No, I think I've always been a risk taker, but
cautious
calibrated risk,
risk taker.
calibrated risk taker. I think where she adds value to me is that obviously, she's far more, she has a great consumer connect, and she's far more connected to what consumers would like and say. Similarly, she's very tech savvy. So there are many skills that she brings to the table that I learned from her, and without her, I wouldn't have been as good about many of those things. So those are the clear value adds. Also, she has a lot of conceptual clarity also. So it's always, she's been like a founder, co-founder with me, who I check with on everything. Even when she was in school, I used to check with her. When she was at business school for last 2 years, every now and then I would download certain hypotheses to her and talk to her. So she's been a constant partner. But I wouldn't say, I would say that those are the areas in which I found her to add value.
And the tech part, which is at the stores, was that spearheaded by you?
We have a huge tech team that supports us, but I think I think we definitely want to build a store of the future. And so because we're almost lucky to not have this legacy retail physical store business, we can kind of create this very tech savvy experience from scratch. And that's everything from being able to scan products, but also being able to order online, pick up in store, try in store, order online. So that whole experience is very important to me as I'm building out retail.
But it's such a cutthroat business, and I'm sure your overheads have to be large. Like for example, rentals, especially the cities you're talking about. So how do you manage all of that and be EBITDA positive?
So we have this whole, we have a model that we must get to certain revenue, and the cost should fall in place in a certain basis.
So you'll give up a store opening if you have to, for example?
Yes, so that it has to fit into that. Now the point is, we may, no one guarantees it, so we may believe and it may not happen, but we always say that we cannot make the same mistake again and again. That was our philosophy even in e-commerce. So we must learn from our mistakes and do course corrections so that we are on path to that long-term success. And and more than that, I think where NYKAA is today, we really want that consumer connect, and we do find that in our stores. So if we have to invest a little bit of our money to get that consumer connect and make our stores a place where consumers come and visit us and learn about beauty and spread the message about, we say that, beauty is very empowering, and we want beauty to be an instrument for empowerment of women. And we say that, beauty is confidence, and confidence is power. So I think we want women to be more empowered. And I think this whole journey is towards that. So.
Well, that's a great idea and a good note to end it in. I just have one question. I was reading an article on the way here. The other business opportunity, men's beauty apparently is a booming business. Are you guys going to ever consider it?
Yeah, in fact, recently one of our investors gave us an idea that you should have a men's brand which says, we know what women want. So I think it would be a good way to start a men's
movie
brand.
that we all saw. So you could consider it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Someday.
So ladies, on that note, I'm going to end the interview. Thank you so much for inviting us, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/etnow.